Hello, Silverdale readers. I'm Mrs. Stolzenburg, and I'm going to finish reading chapter 14, Hide and Go Squeak, starting on page 111 of The World According to Humphrey. He put me back in my cage, and I scrambled into my sleeping house. I have to admit, the game had made me a little drowsy. I don't think it was very long before Mrs. Brisbane returned, carrying several shopping bags full of packages. "What happened, Bert?" she asked when she saw her husband. "Nothing," he said, "but your face is all rosy. You look different, and you're wearing a baseball cap," she said. "Sit down, Sue," he answered. "I'll tell you all about it." He told her every detail of our match, chuckling and swinging his cap back and forth. "I guess there are some things I can still do," he said. "Now, how about a game of gin rummy?" Mrs. Brisbane was almost speechless. "Okay," she said, starting to get up. Mr. Brisbane waved her away with his cap. "I'll get the cards, you just sit." As he wheeled into the den, Mrs. Brisbane turned to me and quietly said, "Thank you, Humphrey." Mr. Brisbane didn't frown the rest of the day and evening, except when Mrs. Brisbane beat him at cards. The next morning, which was Saturday, she couldn't even find her husband. "Where could he be?" she asked me. "He hasn't left the house in months." A minute later he came into the house from the garage, his lap full of boards and bricks and things. "I've got an idea for our friend Humphrey," he said. Mr. and Mrs. Brisbane spent most of the rest of the day building an obstacle course on the coffee table in the den. They lined up boards along the side so I couldn't stray too far, and then they set up things for me to climb over and climb under, like bricks with holes to hide in and big cardboard tubes, and Mr. Brisbane constructed a series of ramps for me to climb. Oh, we had a wonderful day. Mr. Brisbane got out a stopwatch to time me on my runs, and they made bets on how long it would take me to get from start to finish. Mrs. Brisbane even added a few treats to the maze, bits of apple and biscuit. I had fun. The Brisbanes did too, I could tell. On Sunday afternoon, the Brisbanes invited their neighbors over to watch me run my maze. Mr. and Mrs. Robinson brought their 5-year-old twins along. "Glad to see you looking so chipper," Mr. Robinson told Mr. Brisbane. "I think he's finally feeling better," Mrs. Brisbane whispered to Mrs. Robinson. Mr. Brisbane looked a little vinegary again on Monday morning, though. "Why can't we keep him here, Sue?" he asked. "The children would never forgive me," she told him. "He's really their hamster. But," she grinned, "there's a 2-week Christmas vacation coming up soon. I think Humphrey better spend it here." Could I believe my cute furry ears? She liked me so much. She actually wanted me to come back. This was a whole new Mrs. Brisbane, one who liked me. By the time Mrs. Brisbane and I returned to room 26, I was pretty tired, but it was a good tired, and I knew I could rest up from my weekend during recess. Tip number 14. Hamsters should be let out of their cages to run in a closed environment for an hour or 2 at a time. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the book.